Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Toledo Rotary on the road. I am so excited to see how many people decided to do this today. Yeah, this is going to be fun. It's a small room. There we go. Says it is. I'll talk loud. As we get our meeting today, I'd like to thank and acknowledge Equitable Advisors, this month's sponsor, and Rotarian Jason Harris. So thank you, Jason. If you're here,
Since they were incorporated, the Boy Scouts of America on February 8, 1910, and Rotary International, founded 5 years earlier on February 23, 1905. The principles and goals of both organizations have been closely aligned. The values expressed in Rotary International's motto and our four-way test parallel those expressions in the Scout America's oath and law. Fellow Rotarians, listen to this oath, the Scout oath, and keep in mind that these 40 words are recited once a week by close to 2.4 million Scouts across this country. Oh, and if you've ever been a member of the Boy Scouts, or as a youth or as an adult volunteer, or if you remember it, join me. Here we go, Scout sign. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. All right, fellow Rotarians, please place your hand over your heart and join me in pledging allegiance to our country. Those in uniform, Scout salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Boy Scouts of America.
Thank you, fellow Rotarians. Welcome to Camp Miakanda. Before I get started, I'm really going to talk about 3 different topics, and most of it will be scouting today, and how we use Camp Miakanda today, and various things like that. But can I just see a show of hands if you have ever been a scout leader, a scout yourself, or a parent of a scout? Thank you. So there's a world movement in scouting called the World Brotherhood of Scouting. It's an association that the Boy Scouts of America are part of. In 1967, the Boy Scouts of America hosted the first World Jamboree on U.S. soil. It was hosted by North America and South America. And those World Jamborees have been all over the globe in various locations. In 2019, the Boy Scouts of America again hosted the World Jamboree on U.S. soil at the Bechtel Summit Reserve in West Virginia. So that wasn't too long ago. We had 40,000 Scout youth at that Jamboree in West Virginia. 45% of those Scouts were female. The main theme of the Jamboree is peace, friendship, and adventure. So the friendship comes into play with culture and traditions, song and dance, the youth teaching each other about where they're from, who they are, and what they believe in, and how life is important to them. But the adventure comes in, if you've never heard of the Bechtel Summit Reserve, it was built 4 or 5 years before that. It's a fabulous, fabulous outdoor playground for young people. It has some of the longest zip lines, some of the highest class mountain bike trails, and various other attributes for young people to be active in. So archery and shotgun shooting, zip lines and mountain biking, kayaking and sailing, and some of the largest arena shows when you get your, closest to your closest friends of about 100,000 people, some stadium type of approaches to some outdoor adventure for the kids to participate in. So fast forward, local scouting, Erie Shores Council, and most Boy Scout councils around the country. In 1998, the Boy Scouts of America created a program called Venturing. It's for 14-year-old up to 21, both men and women of that age, and they can be involved in scouting in that way as a venture. And we also had exploring, which was career-based, also has been co-ed for quite some time. In 2018, the organization decided to open up our younger programs to females as well. So in 2018, girls could become Cub Scouts. And I'll talk a little bit about how that works. And then in 2019, females could join a Scouts BSA troop, which we traditionally would call a Boy Scout troop. Now we have male troops and we have female troops, and I'll explain that a little bit. So primarily, most of the people that were involved in scouting as adult leaders, if they had boys that were in scouting and they happened to have daughters as well, I saw a long tradition of the girls hanging out with their brothers and doing some scouting things, but never being registered or never being able to work on any achievement or advancement. So they were doing it, but maybe not getting the credit for it as they were working on rank advancement. So we still have some all-boy Cub Scout packs, but we also... Is that better? So traditionally we've had, we still have some all-boy Cub Scout packs, but in 2018, have some of those packs transform into family packs, where have all male dens and some female dens, but then when they gather at the beginning for the oath of the law, they get started at the close of the activities, they might do some things together. So we have that family pack idea really started to catch on because we're one of the very few youth activities where the entire family now can participate if they've got boys and girls in our program and can do it as a family if they like that outdoor adventure and those activities that we do in the outdoors. It was a natural fit. So a lot of those families that had boys, the sisters joined, and we started some family packs in the council area. In 2019, we started to organize some all-female Scouts BSA units. The council currently has 12. Those troops meet individually with their leadership, just like the boys meet individually with their leadership. So it's really, I've seen the movement a lot from the standpoint of families really enjoying those activities together, whether it's archery or BB guns or swimming or a cope challenge, which is a challenging outdoor physical or personal encounter with high ropes or low ropes, or just team building type skills that can be initiative games and things like that, that they really thrive on and really enjoy. So how about a little quiz? So how many of you think that we have less than 100 females registered with the council right now in our programs? How many think we have less than 200? How many think we have less than 300? That's a better answer. At the end of August, we had 275 females in all of our programs in Erie Shores Council. And since 2019, females earn their Eagle rank. And last year we had 118 youth earn their Eagle rank in our council. Last year we had an all-female Scouts BSA contingent of mixed troops with their leadership one male scoutmaster and one female scoutmaster, and they went to Philmont Scout Reservation in New Mexico, went backpacking for 10 days. I asked the scoutmaster, I said, so, do the girls have a need to shower more than the boys? And he said, not at all. Not at all. They just get into it and they go for it and they have a great time. One thing I will tell you about that same scout leader, though, he was a scoutmaster for a male troop for 5 years. And he would say, I tell the boys, okay, we just got to camp, I want you to clean up, I'm going to go to a scoutmaster meeting, I'll be right back. Is it not working?
In progress.
Oh, okay. So, anyway, he left the scoutmaster meeting, and he came back and he said, I don't think anything had been touched in the campsite. And then fast forward 5 years later, he became the scoutmaster of the female Scouts VSA troop in Ottawa Hills. Same scenario. They get to camp at Pioneer Scout Reservation. They set up camp and he says, I'll be right back. I got a scoutmaster meeting. He said, I came back and the campsite was spotless. So there's a little bit of the variety and difference of how the female Scouts mature much faster than the male Scouts do at that age of their life. So a little bit about Miakanda, okay? Our beloved Miakanda has been here since 1917. And Dave's going to talk a little bit about how we acquired the property and that as he's telling some stories. But we have 13 rentable cabins. We have a wildlife center, a pool, various facilities on the property. And quite honestly, when you look at 248 Boy Scout councils around the country, less than 10 still have their original camp, their original footprint. So we're blessed to have that inside the Beltway here in Toledo. And it allows the community to be closer to the outdoor space that we have here, which is 159 acres. So in the last 12 years, we've refurbished all 13 cabins and used wood from the property for the walls on the cabins. We've put some new roofs on those cabins. The entrance bridge that you walked across today was put in new 3 years ago. The Wildlife Center we tore down Cathedral Cabin and we used some of the timbers and the stone from the old structure to build the new structure. So we try to be really good stewards of our resources. And a lot of the camp trees, if we know that they're dead and they're near a building, obviously we harvest those trees and we use those trees for either construction use or for our firewood sale. You might notice on Sylvania Avenue there's a sign out front that says firewood for sale. So every year the hardwoods get sold to the community for your fireplaces and the softer woods get cut up and put in the campsite so the troops can use the firewood back in camp when they're here on the property. Renovations that have taken place other than the cabins in the Wildlife Center, we redid the pool house. Why did we redo the pool house? Because we now had female Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. So we needed to turn those into individual stalls so that they were more comfortable with changing in and out of their swimsuits when they're going swimming. The southern shower house was redone last year, all single-use rooms for male and female, both adult and youth, to use our facilities here. So we try to be good stewards in many ways, and that's reusing and repurposing lumber that we dry and have kiln dried and then turned into construction materials for our camps. But there's also been some other uses. We had some cherry trees that are now brand new dining room tables over at the Ford Center that are just gorgeous. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm not going to call out the person that did it, but he knows who did it. So they're very nice. He spends a lot of time here. So we're good stewards. Year round. Who else besides the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts use Camp Miakanda? Well, first of all, I'll talk about our summer operations, Miakanda Day Camp. We opened that up to the community about 4 years ago. The staff this year was about 35 youngsters of various ages. a very diverse staff, which is really cool to see, and over 700 campers for June and July at Miakanda Day Camp from the community. Again, another really diverse customer base. It's really nice to see them enjoying camp and doing that. And that's really, I've noticed that diversity in the day camp attendance really changed in the last 10 years. I mean, I've seen people, like, I want to check that out. I want to see what's back in camp and what we can do. Some other outside groups, just as a sampling, because we have about 25,000 visitors a year walk across the bridge and do something in camp. We're familiar with Glendale Philbach and the Rotary group that we have the kids out here at camp. UT women's basketball team has used camp. Blissfield had their football camp on our parade field last year. Penna Career Center, Islamic Academy. Dave's Running partnered with us, and we do an ultra run on the property on Labor Day. We had about 350 runners this year. Last year it's a 24-hour run or a 5K or a 10K. There was 6 people last year that ran right at 140 miles during a 24-hour period of time. Crazy people. But they had a chance to see Camp Miakanda and run the terrain and have fun. Weddings, memorial services, and a lot of nearby elementary schools use our property for outdoor ed. Good. We love to have them. And the camp's available for a lot of outside groups if they're interested for retreats or what have you. It's here for the community to use. At this time, I'll have our council historian, Dave Eby, come up and share some tales of Camp Miakanda and how camp was established and how it got started.
Can you hear me in the back all right, or should I try to talk louder? Real close. Better? Better. Okay, I'll try to do this. Welcome to Camp Miakanda. Miakanda is the oldest Boy Scout camp in Ohio. It's the 5th oldest in the United States. There's probably 350 camps around the country. Only 4 of them are older than this place. The museum building, which is right outside the door, is the oldest standing Boy Scout camp building in the nation. There's none older than that one. It was the first thing they built when they bought the land in 1917. This camp is legendary, literally, among the other camps because of all the different facilities they had here. You wouldn't see it today, but the swimming pool, the original swimming pool, was 480 feet long. It held 1.3 million gallons of water. It was spring-fed, so it was always ice cold year-round. Didn't matter August or January, you still had the same temperature. We have a tombstone for a goose that you passed coming in here. We built it as the world's largest goose tombstone. It's probably the world's only goose tombstone. I'm expecting it's 5 feet tall, weighs 1,500 pounds. It was for a goose that died Pearl Harbor Day, 1956. It was the camp mascot. It has its own stories. Ed wanted me to mention about the acquisition of the camp. There were 4 parcels that made this up by 1953. 1917 was the original one. And they had $11,000 mortgage on it. They had a financial emergency in 1919, and they came close to losing it. And they had a loan insurance agent who was on the executive board, and he made it his mission. He raised enough money, literally by himself. He paid off the entire mortgage, and it was no longer in danger. The second acquisition was in 1923. They took on a $25,000 mortgage to buy additional acreage. Then in 1933, in the middle of the Great Depression, they bought yet another parcel. And then in 1953, they bought the final piece, which we used to call the outpost. And that was $30,000 they paid for that land, 50 acres. This camp was the recipient of numerous WPA projects, Works Progress Administration. To my knowledge, it's the only camp that ever figured out a way to legally do that. But the lake here was not a lake, it was a wetland before 1933. That's when the WPA project started. 1,000 men spent 2 years digging a hole, 10 acres in size, 8 foot deep. They built in that lake 3 islands. On one of the islands, they built a 100-foot long Sea Scout ship that was actually a house. Didn't sail, you couldn't move it, but they could teach kids how to sail with it. It was quite unique. You couldn't walk to it, obviously. You had to row over. You got a bottle of water that's starting to go bad here. Anyway, the ship, you could reach it by rowing over, canoeing over, swimming over. Thank you. Better. The pool, like I said, we had a filtration system here they put in 1941. It would do 100,000 gallons of water an hour, and it took, I'm trying to remember how many times to recycle. But anyway, it had 100,000 gallon capacity, and they used it nonstop. The flagpole, which would have been near the museum, was the main mast off a Great Lakes freighter that was erected here in 1921. Had the same thing on the Titanic, that someone would go up and watch for the glaciers, icebergs, whatever. Here, the bugler climbed it 5 times a day. He would go up, he'd wake them up with a bugle, he'd put them to all 3 meals, they'd be notified, you'd hear the bugle, and you would head for the dining hall, and then he'd put them to bed a 5th time. So, in 1964, we had a brand new young bugler, and he went up, he did not eat anything the night before, and he fainted. He was all the way up, halfway up this pole, which is halfway up the size of these trees. He free fell, fractured his skull, he was in a coma, had broken bones. Anyway, they took down the flagpole at that point. They deemed it a hazard. But if you look, we actually have pieces of that original flagpole sitting on the side of the road. You might have seen it has like candles on it, but that was the flagpole, and it was immense. Everything in this place was pretty amazing. In the 1920s, they had tennis courts, they had shuffleboard courts, and now they have a fort, a full-size Pioneer fort on top of those shuffleboards and the tennis courts. There's 12 inches of dirt between the two. If any of you have questions while I'm doing my little talk here, raise your hand. I can hopefully answer whatever you might have. If you have time to come over once this meeting's done, I'll have the museum in the back open for you, and that's the one that's the oldest camp building, built in 1917.
Hey, what was the name of the bugler?
John Pollock was his name. He was out here probably 10 years ago. He donated his bugle that he had with him that day that he free fell. He was supposed to go to the 1964 National Jamboree. He was hospitalized during that time. At least he lived. He was a young guy. He was probably 12 or 13. And they usually had older kids that did the bugle duties. So, any questions, anything at all? You're in a special place. I want you to know that. You really are. This building was WPA built. It's 50 foot tall. In the center where the table with the white cloth is, that's an octagon-shaped piece of That's an octagon concrete, but they had an island that was on that. And they had a massive metal hood over the top of it. This building was built to have open-air campfires inside of it. That was the purpose. So if you had a blizzard outside, you had bad rain, you could put 300 kids inside this and wrap them around that campfire. And they had flames, everything. I mean, the hood was huge. It sucked everything up. The fan is still up there to take the stuff out, the smoke and that. But this was a WPA project. I want to add that the Toledo Zoo has 5 of their WPA buildings. There's a reptile and a bear, I think there's one. The same architect for those buildings was Miakanda's architect. The same guy designed the tree houses. And the tree houses, initially they were going to make a 1-room, 2-room, or a 3-room tree house. And they wound up going with the 1-room. But the same guy designed those. He designed the Sea Scout ship, designed this building. Right now, I'm not remembering his name. First name was Paul, and he became the first full-time traffic engineer in Toledo. And he was a Harvard graduate. I'm just not thinking his last name. But anyway, he was the architect that did all these amazing things, like the tree houses. So we also had an Indian village here where they brought in real Native Americans every summer. And the kids, there was probably 10 or 15 of the different teepees, full size. They weren't little ones. And they brought in the real Native Americans. The one that was here the longest was Chief Sunrise. Sunrise, supposedly, was the grandson or great-grandson of Sitting Bull, like from the same tribe. Our literature from then says he was related. We assume that he was. Any questions? I'm sorry. Yes. those are just banners for the different districts. They're a decoration. They're banners for each district. The district is like Wood County is a district, and they make up the council. So, other questions? Yes.
Thanks to a few people. When we first got started on this project, we decided to get someone involved into X-ray the box, which you see on the table. They agreed to X-ray it. The results were, number one, weren't conclusive. If they were conclusive, don't look very good, but we'll see in a few minutes. Butch group, can you show them, come up here and show off your work? Butch not only sawed you need to stop at the rotary cab on your way out. I don't know whether on the way, the rotary cab is on your right, just before you go down the steps. Stop in and take a look. This inside it's worth visiting. And on the outside, on the corner, you'll see the cornerstone. Butch took this was attached to the cornerstone, and it was all to the point where you couldn't read what it was. But he spent his own time and renovated it for possible work. Somebody asked me about what are we going to do now. The cornerstone needs to be put back, which means if we're going to do anything with a new time capsule, we need to do it before while the weather is conducive to the mortar grind. So I haven't really discussed this with her a lot, but maybe Jackie would be open to suggestions from members as far as what to put in a new time capsule. And I took the liberty of inviting Boy Scouts in Troop 87 last week to be thinking of something. They're working on it. They came up with some interesting suggestions. If you have an idea of what should go into it, either based on what's coming out of it or in general, please let Jackie know.
Chuck, when does this have to be done?
What's that?
Before it gets cold. Before it gets cold.
Soon. Within the next month or so. Be sure to stop and visit the museum, and definitely stop to see where we get. I was on the Building and Grounds Committee when we used to meet in this room, when we met. We decided there might be some big merit in restoring this room. It was acoustic tile from those panels, a lot of those panels, everything up above that. And we went down a 10% ladder one night after the meeting and found that picture, which is the original light picture, and we're told it was worth a lot of money. Don't know that, but we at that point said, let's see if we can more one by one uncover these pictures, which are going to be put in. Similar pictures are going to be used once the bridge is done. So as far as future plans go. Does anyone have any other questions before? Investigate what's stamped on the top of the can.
Where's your voice got?
Yes.
Cool. It's a Toledo Rotary book.
Rotary Club of Toledo. Roster.
Stand by.
Supposedly there was a roster of the Rotary Club and a roster of Troop 1.
Troop 1 and Scout Nixon from Missouri, one is accepted for him.
It's over too.
And there's supposed to be coins inside according to a 1920 letter.
Someone got to the coins.
Scout is thrifty.
Well, that's... Sure I don't want to open it? It's going to crumble.
Dave, you've got a new piece for the museum. You want it? Yeah.
It's got a sponsor, Toledo Railways and something, Jefferson and... I can't read that. Jefferson and there's a period. And a home phone number that's only 4 digits. E.R. Kelsey.
So Jim, from your trade now, what do you think the value is of those?
It's all sentimental. It's all sentimental. Yeah, somewhere between 0 and invalid.
All right, everybody, thank you for being here. That was fun. At least there was something. We did better for all of us. And thank you so much. Bush, thank you for your efforts on that. Next week, we will be back at the Glass City Center on September 25th. We will be joined by Rita Soreman, who is the President CEO of the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. That should be a great time. There is a happy hour this Thursday at Registry Bistro. So hopefully everybody can make it out, have a cocktail, have a little bit of fun. Other than that, thanks for being here. Have a great week. We're adjourned.